got kind of a light crowd tonight. This is a little bit unusual. It seems like there's about 50 people less than normal, but glad that everybody's here. I got a question about something. Has anybody ever worked 13 colonies? If I raise a hand.
All of them, or just?
No, just any of them. Have you or know about them? You know what 13 colonies are?
Yeah.
Well, for those who didn't raise their hand, I want to mention it because between July 1st and July 7th, they're going to have this contest that they always have. I shouldn't call it a contest. It's an event back east. Each 13 colonies, like New York, is K2A, and each colony has got a K2 whatever, A through G, I think, or A through J, or whatever it is. Anyway, you collect them all. Try to collect them all. They're all scattered around all different frequencies for that whole week. They jump around everywhere, and you collect them all, and then you can get a nice certificate, which I've got a clean sweep about 3 times. But last year, the last couple of years, there have been a little complaints about it. I saw a posting on Facebook about this. They revamped it, they've redone it, and they try to make it better than ever. Just so everybody knows, they're trying to make it better than ever because of the 250 anniversary deal that's going on around that time too. So in association with that, they've redone their QSL cards and their sweep certificate and everything. It should be very cool. So if you got a chance to get on HF and make any of those contacts on 13 colonies, keep that in mind for those dates. And sometimes it takes me the whole week to get through them. Sometimes I get through most of them in a couple of days, but I just kind of dribble through them. But it's a lot of fun. I was telling Noji this the other day, there's a geography lesson, a history lesson, HF work, and everything else involved in 13 colonies every inch of the way. And then the bonus is, if you send away for the cards, send an SASE, you get the cards back, and then for a couple months you get cards back in the mail, and you get a secondary bump on that. So it's a lot of fun. I wanted to mention that not a lot of people know about it if they're not involved in HF, but it's an awful cool event, and they say it's the largest event in the United States. You would think the field day was. I think field day is in a little different category, but the ARRL calls it the largest event in the country. So it's a lot of fun. I just wanted to mention that before we get off to some of this other stuff. 7-6 barbecue, June 6th, 10 till 2. Dan's going to bring the barbecue. Noji's going to bring the HF. We're going to bring the chicken. Everything else is potluck. We usually eat around noon at Highland Glen Park. That's up in right by Lone Peak High School, just down in the valley there from Lone Peak High School. It's always a lot of fun. Rain or shine, we've got the pavilion there, and we always have a lot of fun. There'll be some door prizes. We'll have raffles there and give away some radios and some other stuff. And it's just always a really good event. Everybody eats well, and we have a lot of fun and brush shoulders together and have a lot of eyeball QSOs. And we've been announcing this since January, so on the nets, on the 7-6 net, so it shouldn't be much of a surprise. The next thing here is, Noji, you want to make sure we got this on the calendar for September the 5th, the ice cream social. We do it at Leatherby's the last few years. Since we got Leatherby's here in Orem, it will be Leatherby's here in Orem at 1 p.m. It's buy your own ice cream, but we always have about 50, 60 people there. It's always a lot of fun. And if you're not into ice cream, or your health or your diet doesn't permit it, they have a lot of other good food there besides. And so if you haven't been there before, come brush shoulders with the rest of the group, and hopefully we'll see you then. Put it on your calendar. I think my next thing is later. Go ahead, Joe.
So, Carl, you say you've been working the 13 colonies things for the last 250 years?
Yeah, right.
All right. In the back, there's some free stuff. So take a look at it. They gave my wife a bunch of empty bins at work. So if you need bins to put stuff in, they're small, a couple bigger ones. They're in the big box back there, plus some old radios. Okay, what do you think I'm going to talk about?
Field day.
Let's get ready to field day, 51 days. Okay, Saturday, June 27th to 28th at the Trout Creek Strawberry Reservoir, north of Strawberry. Great time, fun time. I'm going to be up there with my camper on the 18th, so I'm getting there about 11 days, 9 to 11 days before. So if you want to come up and camp and bring your trailers up and park them and leave them there, there's good security around there. What are we looking for help for? No G. Thought we already had everybody arranged to bring everything. In the next week or two, I'm going to be posting on the Google Docs, the spreadsheet. We're going to have tacos. We got 15 pounds of hamburger and about 10 pounds of ground chicken. So if you're not a hamburger eater, we got some ground chicken. It's going to be Taco Tuesday on Saturday at Field Day. All right, next thing, the Ham Radio Fair, our annual Ham Radio Fair, July 16th. It's a Thursday, starting at 6 p.m. at Pheasant Brook Park, Linden. We're going to have an ugly antenna contest. Pull out your phone, put in Pheasant Brook Park, and it'll take you and on your maps, it'll take you to the directions right there. Let me see, is there anything else? Yes, so, no G.
That antenna that you saw in the parking lot, it lost that contest.
Because I don't think that's an ugly antenna. I think that's a darn good looking antenna out there.
Why is he saying lost it?
You know, I was wondering maybe somebody dropped an antenna out there or something. All right, Carl, you're back up on service.
And that's why I didn't go for it. Yeah. How many of us, and now I know that we're probably, beating the drum to the choir here, but how many of us know about the Portable Field Day? I mean, Utah Portable Day. How many of us? Have we advertised it well? Every hand should go. Let me ask you a question before I start. How many know what 3 words are? What 3 words?
Well, I know what it is. I have my.
I know the ones I've been called. They're more than 3.
If you don't have what 3 words on your phone, download it. It's free. It's a great app. It's what's going to be used for the exchange on Portable Field Day. And that, just to tell anybody that doesn't know about it, what 3 words, if you download it, just takes a couple minutes. It's got the entire world gridded up into about 10 square feet, 3 meters by 3 meters, the whole world. So, and each grid has 3 words attached to it. So wherever you're sitting right now has 3 words attached to it if you pulled it up on your phone right now. That's going to be the exchange on Utah Portable Day, is what 3 words. Now, I think if nothing else, this is a statewide event. It's sponsored by the emergency, what do they call that department? They're calling it the Utah Area ERC, but it will be an event that's statewide. We may only hear about it locally, but it's statewide. So they're asking people to go to your local park, wherever you can set up a portable station, and emergency power, and make contacts, as many as you can, and log them. Log the person you talk to, log their what 3 words, and what frequency, and keep a list of those and turn them back in. The goal here is to operate our ham radios, get out of our house and do it. When is May 9th? That's Saturday. That's coming up real quick. If you haven't prepared, time is now. Hopefully you've got a portable station you can set up. Even if you couldn't do anything but UHF, VHF, go out and do that. Even if you don't have an HF set up. He says where here? Anywhere. Anywhere you can, kind of get legal, a place to go. Without being interrupting anywhere. It's between 10 and 12 on Saturday. So some parks you might have to have conflicts with baseball games or soccer games or so be aware of that if you're trying to plan a place to go. Go out and call CQ. There's a 4-page document here about this in detail, what frequencies that they know that they will be on. Some of them will be even at the church building. They will have a setup there.
Is this down arrow?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't know there was.
Look, there's another down arrow.
Look at that.
And one more.
Dang, what is this? Oh, Silly Patches Gumby. What 3 words? I don't know where that's at, but you can look it up. Anyway, if you want to find out more about or download this document, that it's about a 3-page document that Larry and, I don't know if Larry and Noji put it together or whatever, was it Larry? Anyway, you can go to mcom@xmission.com. That's EMCOM COMM@xmission.com, and Larry will send you a copy of this document if you need it. But the whole thing is 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock, Saturday, VHF, UHF. Make as many local contacts as you can. Use an NBIS antenna if you're doing HF to try and keep it as local as you can.
Kent Flowers is going to be setting up with UVARC at Geneva Park.
At Geneva Park, which
Orem.
in Orem, which is between here and the freeway. At Geneva Park, they're going to do WinLink. They're going to focus on WinLink there, and so that wasn't in this document, but I had notes on it right here. WinLink, Geneva Park, which is about 400 north and 800 west, and they're going to be doing WinLink and WinLink training and stuff there. So. If you got, and that was kind of an afterthought, so if anybody wants to learn more about that. Anybody have any questions on that? Like I said, this document is big. I wasn't going to read the whole thing. Anybody? Go ahead, Ralph.
Can you give the URL again, please?
Yeah, it's an email address. It's mcom@xmission.com. Or maybe it's no, that's his email address. That's Larry Driscoll's email address. That he used mcom, it's EMCOMM, 2 M's, @xmission.com. Just send him an email saying you want that document, he will send it to you. If somebody doesn't have access to that, I think I got an extra copy of it here that I would be willing to give up. If somebody doesn't have a way to download that, I'll be happy to give it up. Anybody else have any questions? Hopefully, yeah, Stan?
That address is not 800 West.
Well, I looked it up on Google Maps. It says about 400 north on 800 west, approximately. It doesn't give an address for that park. There is.
It's when you drive back in behind the school.
Okay, behind the school. Okay, it's called Geneva Park. So it's on Google Maps. You'll be able to find it there. I thought it was going to be on the other side of the freeway when I looked it up, so I was glad I did.
It's kind of in
All right, thank you.
All right, our what 3 words location is locker.dining.serve. Easy up. Just in case you didn't know where you were.
I can't get the address.
All right, next we're going to have a special activity. Marsden Haas and 6TAG, you're up.
Well, actually, this is a continuation of service. And the service I'm talking about is the Orem Fest on Saturday, June 13th. And if you know anything about that event, it's going to be coming right on up from 8th East all the way up to Center and right out here to this location. And then that's going to cap off with the fireworks right over here in these 2 fields over here. So we're looking for individuals that'd like to just come and play with the radio and sign up for that. Just go to ucares.org, go to events, find Orem Fest, and put your John Henry on that. It's going to be a lot of fun with that. So we are we'll be adding what 3 words to this document, so you know exactly where you're going to stand on the corners, etc. Any questions? Thank you.
I also saw the email today. They're looking for ham radio operators for the Provo Freedom Parade.
And the Springville.
And the Springville.
What's that?
And the Springville.
And the Springville, and there's another one that came out not too long ago.
Springville Arts Festival.
Yeah, he just mentioned that. Okay, next person up is Sean.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the exciting part for me. I get to introduce all of the new hams. So these are all of our brand new hams that got licensed since the last club meeting, give or take. And when I say that, once in a great while, we miss somebody. So everybody look over the list real quick. And let's all give them a great big hand. Okay, do we have any of our new hams here today? No new hams today.
Somebody keep pointing these young kids over here.
Yeah, we're gonna get them in.
They've already been there a month.
All right, you guys, give me a
You're gonna be up
smile.
front with me anyway.
Yay.
There we go.
Yep, they got their license a couple of months ago. Yay. And this is their very, very first meeting to be here, and we're excited. They check into several nets quite often.
What are their names?
Okay,
What are their names?
I gotta think.
Okay.
Abby, Zach, Emily. Yeah, Abby stumped me there for about half a second. Okay, and these are our upgrades for since the last meeting. Do we have any of our upgrades here today? That is unusual. All right, let's give them a hand. All right, next important thing. Who is new to this meeting and has never been here before besides our three we just met? Stand up and tell us who you are and your call sign if you have one.
My name is Michael. I had a call sign when I was in high school, and then I never used it, so it expired, but I'm trying to get back into it. So me and my two daughters are studying for the test right now. We're hoping to take it at the end of the month.
Cool. That's good. Yep. Okay, in the back.
Hey everybody, my name is Matt. Call sign is KM6CBX. I'm a BYU student, moved here about August. Do a lot of work with the BYU Amateur Radio Club and came to check things out tonight.
Fantastic. Okay, anybody else that's new?
Gary, KI5YZQ from Central Texas, visiting up here, taking a vacation up here, so just here dropping into the club again. I was here about 3 years ago.
Well, good. Welcome. Oh, somebody else. Who are we pointing at?
Hi, my name is Evan. I was just interested in amateur radio, so I just dropped by.
Fantastic. Welcome. There's one or two people that know something about it here. All right. Anybody else? Okay.
Question, Sean.
Yes.
I don't see Dave here. Isn't there a testing session coming up this week or something?
He's starting a session tonight.
So that's a
Yeah.
Class, but isn't there a testing session next week?
It's
5 weeks from now.
Yeah,
It'll
it's
be on
about June
Saturday.
20th,
Okay.
and then another one at Field Day. They're back to back.
There's one in Provo on May 20th,
Yeah.
the one I'm
Yeah.
going to.
There's one Provo.
That's BYU, no.
No, it's the fire station.
Fire station. It's,
That's Steve's.
yeah, it's
These usually
Steve's.
Wednesday nights and Saturdays, but you won't be holding one on Saturday this
Nope.
month.
Yeah.
He's at Hamfest.
He's right, 20th is the next one.
Wait, this is
20th?
that on Wednesday? Okay.
Okay. All right. Who's doing our introduction?
All right. Before we get into our lesson for the night, I want to remind you that Monday is Mother's Day, and you can still order her a nice ham radio and have it shipped before Mother's Day. All right, so it looks like we got Matthew coming up with what's new at 60 meters, and Jody, our Santa of All About Mars. All right, who's up first? Matt?
All right, welcome everyone. Took me a second there to get this figured out. So my objective tonight is to share with you a little bit about 60 meters and what has changed. Some of the things that I will go over tonight is those rules, and some of the fun things that we like to do is some math. And I hope that we don't have to go too much into that. Really don't want to do that. My objective is to just share with you some of the fun things that we can do and some of the compromises that we come together as a community, and what the FCC has given us and taken away. So anyways, we're gonna go on about that. So some of those goals are basically this year, back in February, the FCC has changed some of those things, and we had talked about, channels, subbands, and what that actually means. We'll attempt to master some of the ERP calculations. We'll talk about that, and also if anybody's up for the task, wait, what is that? DB? Anybody know what that means? Well, I'll go over that. And we'll learn together. And if we fail, that's okay. We'll fail together and we'll learn about it and how we can actually experience that together. Most importantly, by the end of this session, I hope we can understand how we can stay compliant within 60 meters and avoid those mistakes. And then hopefully you can understand how to keep your signal strong enough to make this contacts without accidentally turning your dipole into a federally regulated death ray. Anyways, let's start with 60 meters. It's such a weird and wonderful band in amateur radio. So the first thing is it's actually a good band to use. It's kind of like in between the 80 meters and the 40 meters. There's 60. And so you can use INVIS. INVIS is one of the wonderful things that we can lean to, which basically in radio wizardry, we like to talk that as the signal goes up to the sky and comes back down nearby. Well, it's perfect for regional communication day and night, which is why emergency communications love it. Everybody likes to use that for another alternative for communication. So I use some of these acronyms. You might understand, like, what is INVIS? Is a lot of us will call that, and I'll actually explain what INVIS is. And this leads to the secondary uses of this band. Amateur radio officer guest on 60 meters. Its primary uses is we don't want to argue with others when we get on there, especially since we have our many of the United States has military things that happen on these frequencies, and so government users are on there. So think of this as trying to share a tiny apartment kitchen with the military. We like to clean up after ourselves, don't touch their stuff, and absolutely don't cause interference. So that leads us to the secondary uses of rules. Amateur operators are guests on this band. If our primary users show up, we don't argue, complain. We don't type any angry comments on QRZ. We quietly move along and accepting any interference that they may cause, and we move on. It is basically just a radio equivalent to mom said that there's stuff. Mom said to turn off the Xbox, basically. So just kind of look at it like that. So for the power limits, operators are limited to 100 watts, typically ERP in the United States, which sounds simple right up until the antenna math comes in. So voice operators might use the upper sideband because that matches the primary uses and keeps everyone standardized. Now, somewhere out there, one guy still wants to argue, hey, I can use lower sideband. Well, that's not how it was set up. So we all remember that 60 meters is upper sideband. Just kind of keep that in mind. Now, finally, 60 meters is becoming more globally standardized and is usually less crowded than 40 and 80 meters. And is extremely reliable propagation during day and night transitions. In other words, while 40 meters sounds like a pileup at Walmart or on Black Friday, 60 meters can feel like a calm Costco run at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. Now, reliably makes it excellent for emergency communication, portable operations, mobile setups, and operators might want to do a dependable regional coverage without needing its 70-foot tower and sacrifice the ionosphere gods. Well, let's move on to this next slide here. Kind of want to talk about what that big subband section is. Well, this is it. The good news is we didn't lose everything. We just kind of chopped off channel 3 and opened it up to where we can do a little bit more. So the good news is we have the legacy channels. We could still do channel 1, channel 2, 100 watts there. Then we got channel 3. We're going to talk about it. It's not really channel 3. It's the new subband, channel 4, channel 5. Okay, here we go. So remember that. Channel 3, gone. Now we have the new subband. This comes in much stricter limits. 9.15 watts ERP. What? Yes, it's not 10, it's not 11, it's not close enough. It's somewhere, somehow we had an engineer or somebody came along the line and said to the FCC, an engineer definitely smiled in choosing that number just to make it ham radio operators to pull out calculators like it's from 1997. And we're like, okay, we're gonna have to calculate this. Well, so the big challenge moving forward is remembering what part of the band you're on before you key up. And because one side says, go ahead, run 100 watts, while the other side says, congratulations, you are now a QRP operator, whether you like it or not. Well, this is where the antenna math suddenly becomes everyone's favorite or least favorite hobby. And yeah, bands didn't just get a new spectrum. It accidentally turned half an amateur radio into an accounting class. Well, here we go. Let's talk about this. So we got channel 1, which is what? 5330.5 kilohertz, centered right on 5332 kilohertz. Channel 2 is 5346.5 kilohertz, centered right at 5348 kilohertz. We're not going to talk about channel 3 yet because channel 3 is gone, right? Channel 4, 5371.5, centered right at 5373 kilohertz. And channel 5 is 5403.5 kilohertz, centered right at 505 kilohertz. You may notice the missing channel 3. Yes, channel 3 has been eliminated, is replaced with the new subband. That is the compromise. Somewhere out there, an old ham is calling it the real channel 3 and refusing to update his cheat sheet that he has in his shack that he laminated back in 2006. The good news is remaining channels still allow you to use 100 watts ERP. And you can support your upper sideband, your data, and your CW modes. So your radios should still work. However, you might need to do a couple things. You might need to Mars mod your radio so you can do more. Check if there's a firmware update. I know my radio did get a firmware update. Not every radio has that, but they are pushing out some of these changes. If you're not comfortable with that, just be careful. I don't want you to void your radio, and I'm not going to take responsibility of that. But keep in mind that it is possible. Now, remember, upper sideband is required for phone operations on all 60-meter channels. And it is one of the few places in amateur radio where FCC basically says there are no debates, there are no formal arguments to be made. Well, technically, it is only upper sideband. So honestly, that alone is the most peaceful thing accomplished on HF. So there we have it. That is partially the part of the subject here we want to talk about, and we're going to go forward here about that new subband. So the new continuous subband now spans from 5351.5 to 5366.5 kilohertz. This is the shiny new part of 60 meters, where the FCC said, fine, you can have a little more flexibility, but absolutely no fun with the power levels. So you remember that 100 watts? Can't really use that, but that's okay. The segment replaces the old 5358.5 kilohertz channel, meaning channel 3 does not completely disappear. It just evolved into a subband, came back with a stricter rule, strong HOA enforcement energy. If you kind of know what I'm getting here, there's a little bit of a compromise. Now the subband allows maximum bandwidth of 2.8 kilohertz, which means operators may pay attention to where their signal actually lands instead of yelling close enough into the microphone. Don't do that. Try to take the time to understand your antenna system. And this is where the power limit, 9.15 watts ERP, maximum. Again, not 9.2, not 10, not my radio's drifts a little, or exactly 9.15 watts ERP. That is the part where every ham radio operator suddenly rediscovers decibel math, an antenna gain charge, and the realization that their simple dipole may not actually be simple anymore. So, compared to the legacy channels, the new subband is less like a full legalish operation, more like an HF yoga, low power, and careful positioning, and controlled breathing, and constant self-awareness. Welcome to Accidental QRP. Welcome, everybody. We're now going to be going into this new sideband as lower power. Okay, let's look at the legacy spectrum again. We're going back to the operational rules. We still have channel 1, channel 2, channel 4, channel 5. We can still do 100 watts. Now, if you look at that, general, advanced, and extra can operate as a secondary basis on this band, which the FCC language says you're allowed to be here, but don't touch anything important. So the power limit is 100 watts relative to a half-wave dipole. The census alone launched approximately to 14,000 online forum arguments and at least less spreadsheet additions. We won't go too much in there. But the maximum bandwidth is 2.8 kilohertz, which means the signal needs to stay neatly inside the lines. The FCC handed anyone with a giant HF coloring book. Well, permitted modes, you have upper sideband, you have CW, RIDI, PSK 31, Pactor 3, all the wonderful data modes you can still do. Upper sideband has always been the phone operation mandatory operating mode because 60 meters, as the FCC saw decades of sideband debates and decided absolutely not. We're not ending this today. So, and then we get into the most important restrictions, only one signal at a time permitted per channel right in the middle, which is kind of interesting. So not where we were, I was here first, oh, someone else was here first. I'm running FT8, so it doesn't really count. No, it does. One signal, and that was the problem with the channel. You had to be in the middle. You had to share with other people. So the operating 60 meters sometimes feel like you had a normal HF, but where you're trying to merge the traffic, everyone politely pretends that they totally understand the rules. So then we have here, I actually went to a website. There's an HF website that actually had this kind of nice picture here. I did have some copies over here if you guys want to pick them up and put them in your shack and have it. There's some handouts here. I do have that for you guys. I don't have a whole lot, but I did print some. If my wife is watching this, I'm sorry, I used a lot of ink, but this is cheap ink, so yeah, I hope you can forgive me for that. Anyways, and then this is the updated radio bands that everybody is very familiar with. You can download this on the ARRL website. Right down on the bottom corner down there, you can see, I'll move my mouse over here, they have updated that so you guys can see the new subband. Right here, channel 3 has been opened up, and you can see specifically 9.15 watts, ERP, and then relative to a half-wave dipole. So that's just kind of how they explain the math there. We're going to go into the math now. So understanding the power level, peak envelope power, or see here, I just lost my. Okay, to comply with the rules, we first need to understand the 3 power measurements. Make every ham radio operator. So to start operating browser tabs full of decibel calculators. Well, first we have peak envelope power. Then we have the power output of the transmitter doing voice peaks. Measure the radio itself. In simple terms, the number of hams proudly announced before the night saying, yeah, but it's just barefoot. Well, second, there's ERP, which is effective radiated power. And then there's things that stop being simple and the radio math begins to be a villain arc. You have ERP takes your transmitter power and subtracts the feed line loss, and then adds the antenna gain relative to the dipole, and then quietly judges your life choices. Well, no, not way. Anyways, the more important is that the FCC limits the new 60 meter segment to 9.15 watts. So just remember that. Whatever your radio front panel says, yeah, not quite. We're gonna have to do a little bit more. We need to know the effective isotropic radiated power. And so using the theoretical isotropic antenna, the reference point, because apparently engineers looked at the dipole and thought, what if we invented an imaginary perfect antenna instead? That would be really cool. Nah, not really happening. Anyways, an ERIP is 2.5 decibel higher or than ERP. So for example, if you have a 15 watt ERIP equals to 9.15 watts ERP, this is the part where some operators suddenly realize that everyone keeps arguing about dBi versus dBd, like it's a religious debate. Okay, well here's a critical rule. The FCC limit supplies to ERP, and the entire antenna system, not just your radio power setting. So your radio says 10 watt, but your antenna system said it has a gain. Congratulations, you already over the limit before you even finish saying CQ. All right, so let's look at some practical power scenarios. And you know, the moment every ham radio realizes that the antenna matters more than they hoped. If you're looking at a dipole antenna, you roughly have, and this is not true, just 0 dB gain. We know we have some gain, okay? You build your antenna, you might have an understanding of, oh, I have a little bit of a gain. Keep that in consideration. So, but theoretically here, I might be spreading some misinformation, but I'm gonna try my best here. And yes, I might make a mistake. Well, so if we have a dipole antenna, which is roughly 0 dB, I'm not gonna say it's 0 because it's probably 2 point something, but let's just say it's 0 dB and transmitter out 9 watts. It's generally compliant once you factor in the average coax loss. In other words, your coax is finally hoping that you, instead of being expensive copper spaghetti, now really a dipole antenna, you do have dB gain. So standard half-wave dipole provides gain approximately 2.15 dB compared to theoretical isotropic antenna. And the antenna's radiated power is equal to in all directions. So now, if you run a 100 watt transmitter into that same dipole on the new subband, well, congratulations, you're no longer a little over. You've absolutely launched past 9.15 watts ERP limit in the shopping cart and a rocket engine attached. So things get a little bit more interesting. And the directional antenna, if you are using a 6 dB gain again, you may be allowed to use like 2 or 3 watts from your transmitter for that output. And this is where operators discover the better antenna performance and legal power limits are now engaged in hand-in-hand combat. So, the important takeaway here is the antenna gain dramatically affects the legal transmitter power. So a 3 dB gain, or 3 dBd gain, I gotta say that right, or I'm gonna get quoted here wrong. So let's say this right. 3 dBd gain increases roughly cuts your allowed transmitter power in half. Every time an antenna gain doubles, your power budget basically gets mugged in the dark alley of the decibel math. So your calculation checklists always include your feed line, your coax feed line, your connector, your adapter losses, your tuner, everything. The emotional damage caused by the discovering your beam antenna is too efficient. Well, remember, the FCC says 9.15 watt limit is based on the effective radiated power. So let's go ahead and talk about how to, we'll get to that part. We're going to talk about some of the takeaways here. The key takeaways are the part where you keep everyone accidentally FCC adventures mode. So first, the power control reality, the reality is do not assume that the power knob on your radio equals to your legal ERP. The radio only knows what you're putting out, not what your antenna system is doing after the coax, tuner, connector, adapters, suspiciously expensive beam antenna gets involved. So the new segment 5351.5 through 5366.5 segment is strictly limited to 9.15. Not close enough. The SEC directly specifies this. So what you need to do is first, the third thing is basically is remain the 4 legacy channels. You still have 100 watts on those, and you operate normally within that immediate area, right in the middle. And then you need to do some math here with your. And I'm going to get to that part. I'm going to talk about how you can pull up a website and do most of this, where you don't have to actually go through this. But the pro tip here is verify your total system gain loss before operating on the new 60 meter segment, because this band, your antenna, can actually snitch you. So this chart here is going to talk a little bit more about the visualization of the calculation. So for example, let's just say, this is not 100%. Let's just say you have a 0 dBd dipole. You need about 9.15 watts. You can put that out. You have a 3 dBd antenna, only outputs 4.5 watts. And then you have a 6 dB antenna, you might need around 2 to 3 watts. So better than your antenna gets, the more power settings starts to look personally attacked. Now this demonstrates the effective factor. Every time your antenna gain doubles, you can cut the transmit power roughly in half, and then while maintaining the same signal strength at the target. Unfortunately, the FCC will notice if we are doing this on a regular. However, they're not always watching you unless you're actively doing this all the time. And we'll get into that later, and that's where Mars comes in. They actually actively work in 60 meters and other frequencies as well. But let's move on here. So let's look at the actual formula, and we're going to go really quick here so we don't have a lot of time. But in simple theory, we have some math. I'm not going to go too much into it, but we have your you have your ERP, which is your dBW, and your P out, which is your dBW, minus your loss, and your, sorry, I have it all written down and kind of reading it, your antenna gain. Then that's the calculation you got to do first, and then then you got to calculate the second part, which is getting it into decibels, so or your dBW, which is the point where many hams start whispering, I should have paid more attention in math class, yeah, logarithm, whatever. No. The FCC looked at this and said that this is the formula, this is what we need to do, we need to calculate this, and then the power. So if you look at the formula here, that is the PdBW times 10 times the log 10, that's your P watts. I kind of wrote that down just so you guys have that. This is actually all documented, but yes, it is written there. Somehow this actually works out cleanly for once, but unfortunately the easy example is never there. So let's go further into that. Step 3, this is where the accounting for the system loss and the antenna gain, known as discovering your coax, secretly eating your RF every time. So this is where you get your GDBD, which is equal to your dBi minus 2.15. So then again, this is the formula where it became, you got your power minus your loss plus your antenna gain, and then equals your actual ERP. We're not done. We gotta convert that back. What do you mean? That's the watts part. So we gotta convert it back to watts. So that's the moment where you leave the magical land of decibel, and you go back to where we can read it humanly possible, where we actually recognize it, which is where you have ERP, the inverse of that formula we just looked at. Oh, okay, that actually makes sense now. Now we have our power, and then we can actually get back to our transmitter and dial it where we need to. So basically here, RF equivalent of this is translate your engineer, do calculations, translate it back into English. So the important takeaway here is decibel math is just a shortcut for handling gain and loss efficiency. Once you finish the calculations, converting it back to watts tells you whether your station is legally compliant or whether your antenna system is just accidentally became too effective. So because nothing humbles as a ham radio operator faster than discovering their small portable setup is technically radiating a tiny angry lighthouse. Okay, so then we have the slide here that talks about the ERP formula, which is a little bit more into actually getting that number, and we're going to keep going here. We don't have too much time, but and then we have the understanding of that formula. I'm not going to go too much in detail, but you have an example, and this is not 100%, guys. This is just kind of like, if you think about, okay, I have a dipole, it's just, you know, we got a wire, I got it set up. Okay, just kind of look at this as 0 dB, unity gain. Okay, you can put 9.15 watts out, you should be okay. But I usually start with the safer side, just start at 2, go to 3, go to 4, go to 5, and then you don't want to go over your limit there. Your standard gain, if you have a 3 dBd antenna, you may want to do 4.5, and then let's say you have a 6 dBd gain antenna, it's like really powerful antenna, just a little bit, you don't need much. Okay. All right, let's keep going here. And this is the part where I want to give you guys, let's skip all that math. Let's do a little bit of some help. We have a calculator. And so I have given you guys the option. There's a wonderful website here, and there's I think it's a link there. There's a QR code. M0UKD has put this site together where you can use this wonderful ERP or ERIP calculator to kind of help you get your math done, so you don't have to do it. You can actually use the website for that. So it's important to know this and actually have this documented next to your radio, because you actually want to know how much you're putting out if you're going to be doing, especially this new subband. So let's look at the propagation. You have INVIS propagation example here. The reason the band feels like black magic wrapped in an ionosphere science. The big feature here is INVIS propagation, which is the near vertical incident skywave. Okay, so it sounds complicated, but the basic idea is simple. Instead of your signal shooting off the horizon like a normal HF, it goes straight up into the ionosphere and then it comes right back down nearby. In other words, your radio signal basically throws itself into the sky, at the atmosphere politely bounces back towards your friends. And this creates a reliable regional coverage and circularly around the 300, 400 miles around your station. And the signal reliably is usually stronger within 200 miles and then gradually weakens as it goes. And that can change if there's a skip zone. So you can actually get further. So if we were to translate that into ham laying, it's perfect to talking to people nearby, but not accidentally collecting like Sylvania on 5 watts. So not really good for long, but you can get close. So the propagation pattern on 5 megahertz with this 60 meter band is ideal for local and regional communications, especially during emergencies when infrastructure fails and cell phone becomes a tiny glow of paperweights. So one of the best advantages of INVIS is the terrain independence. Since the signal goes up the mountain, hills, canyons, the terrain obstacles matters much less than they do with the near line sight system. So for operators here in Utah, INVIS is basically like an RF equivalent of saying, nice mountain range, anyways, seek you. So anyways. Okay, and then you can do one thing I wanted to go before I finish up here is the digital operation cautions. I know when I do FT8, you kind of run into splatter and some of that stuff when you do a waterfall. I'm going to talk a little bit about this. So just because it looks good, it's not always great. This is where you're going to be very careful, which means if you pick the wrong offset near the edge of the band, your signal can accidentally wander outside the authorized segment like a Roomba escaping the living room. So the maximum allowed bandwidth is 2.8 kilohertz. That is the total emission width permitted. So operators may pay close attention to the dial frequency and the audio frequency together. This is where many operators suddenly realize, oh, well, the radio is actually half the story. The critical thing to watch out for is your audio offset. Especially when you're operating too close to the subband edges like 5351.5 and 5366.5 kilohertz. So that's that new segment we're talking about here. Because, yeah, 2 minutes? Okay. I'm going to give Jody some chance here to talk, and I can actually share this slide. Don't have too much time to go in here, but this is just a little bit of an example of the new segment, and I actually have some handouts here for you guys to take home if you want to. But more about that, we're going to go and turn the time over to Jody. He's going to share with us a little bit about Mars. All right.
So by the show of hands, how many people here have heard of Mars? Good, a lot of you. We'll make this fairly quick and simple. Mars, as a lot of you are aware, is the military auxiliary radio system. There's quite a bit that's out there. There's a website that you can go to that is, what is it? Army? USArmyMars.gov. Army, yeah. U.S. Army Mars, I believe is what it is. USArmyMars.gov. Okay. What is Army Mars? It is the auxiliary system that works with the DoD to be able to give aid to the military, the civil, any of the government agencies that when they need assistance with communication, that's who they activate and that's who does it. The Corps Mission and Operations, we do backup support for the military as well as civil authorities. Unlike traditional ham radio, we use military frequencies. Most of those are, a lot of them are in 60 meter, but we've got certain frequencies throughout all of the HF bands that are designated for Army Mars, Air Force Mars, Navy and Marine Mars is no longer there. So it's just the two. In addition to those frequencies, we use a different type of modem for digital communication, which is the mil spec. What is that? The 188 110A. We also use TAC, which is team. I'm trying to remember exactly what TAC stands for. Team Awareness, I think is what it's called, as well as ALE, which is another way to do direct connecting between stations. There's national exercises that are done on yearly, quarterly, and just all over the time. We'll hit this a little more in just a minute because we actually have one that's coming up this Saturday as well during the same time that we're having the Utah one. Quarterly ones, like I said, we've got the quarterly ones that tests our capabilities of using our radios, doing the communications, and the major annual event is the one that's coming up this Saturday, which is the Cross Field Day, which is similar to our normal field day and winter field day, except it's military. It's still a big game to them to make as many contacts as they can in a certain time frame. We've got just a few minutes, so we'll get through this. Let's see, we've already discussed a little bit of that. We already did that one. Let's say that there's a catastrophe, like what we saw last year with Helene, okay? Everybody was wiped out. There was no communication. The radio operators is who got involved, right? The way that the military does it, that if, say, Noji and Carl need to send communication because Carl's down on an island having fun, but yet he's got a radio and he wants to make sure that his family and friends here are okay and that they're making it to this meeting, that communication would be written down and documented on a piece of paper that Carl would fill out, hand deliver it to whoever is going to send the communication, and it may sound something like this, which would be the one sending the message. So we'll say it's Carl. He would say, KN0JI, this is W7OMG. General message. How copy? Noji would reply, I copy Roger, meaning I hear you loud and clear. Proceed. Over. He would say line 1, general attendance. How copy? Noji would reply, I copy general attendance. Over. Carl would say, good copy. Line 2, Kilo 7, Uniform Victor Alpha. How copy? Noji would reply, would repeat it back. It would be a good copy back and forth. Line 3 would be K7BUX, me. How copy? Noji, I copy K7BUX. Good copy. And you can see that there's certain things that go on that, and the message would go down until the last message is, we'll say line 7. Line 7, end of message. Over. How copy? Node would reply, I copy line 7, end of message. Carl would respond, Roger, out, meaning the call's over. That way, for like example with Helene, that was how they were sending communication. They would send this formal message, handwritten, hand delivered to somebody on a radio, who would transmit the message verbally, line by line, so they knew exactly what they were hearing, and would write it down so they knew exactly. So it was like me writing it down, taking it over and handing it to Steve and say, Steve, this is from your family, such and such. This is the message they wanted you to get. Army Mars does that. Let's see. Real world emergency activities. We haven't been called active duty yet as far as our region. If you take a look in the top right corner, you'll see FEMA. That's how the United States is split up when it comes to Mars. It's divided based upon the FEMA division that you live in. For example, you can see the orange, we're region 8. We take in Utah, Colorado, Montana, Wyoming, North and South Dakota. Okay? And we take care of major disasters, situational awareness, DOD, whatever is needed, we take care of. Why should we volunteer? Well, most importantly, patriotic service. I personally couldn't serve in the military because of health reasons, but I can serve now, and I can serve my country and my community. Just like a lot of us are part of ARES, a part of UCARES, it's a volunteer service. Nobody gets paid. We can get technical experience. We have other trainings that are given, that are documented, that are also, if we think of something that needs attention or something that we might see that could be considered training, we develop it, we do it. We have an elite community of over 3,000 skilled operators across the U.S. I'll give you some numbers here shortly of what we have active in our region. Professional growth. Why is it important? Because we learn how to communicate as the military does, so that if we ever have to, we don't have to worry about sounding like the truckers, the people on 11 meter. What are the membership requirements? This is what is really cool. You just have to have an FCC license. They prefer general or extra, but a technician can do it as long as they are over 18. You pass a background screening and sign an NDA. Background screening is, as long as you're not a felon, they don't care what you do. The commitment, minimum 15 to 18 hours per quarter. Every time you hop on a net, they consider that net as 1 hour. There are nets that are held, we'll get to that in a second. How to join it, you review the AR 25-6 and the AM1 manual that is on the usarmymars.gov or .org website. You download the AM1 form, fill it out, send it into Netcom. It has to be emailed. They will not accept handwritten or mail. And once you get your your letter back saying you've been accepted and approved to be on the Army Mars team. You go through training, so your first call sign is going to be a Tango call sign, standing for training. Okay? To move from training to a Romeo, which is full-fledged Mars person, they give you a year to do the training needed for that. And you go through different training scenarios and getting stuff like that to be able to do it. Daily nets are Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. Weekly trainings that are on the air. So during that same week, morning net, the hours are 15 to 18. In Utah, we have 7 active Mars members. We've got 13 in Colorado, 3 in Montana, 1 in South Dakota. In addition to what Carl was saying, that we've got the Utah, the CQ Utah this weekend, the Colorado and Wyoming Aries is joining the Operation Crosstalk, which is the military one, from 8 to 11, doing NVIS on those frequencies. If anybody wants to listen in, you can join into it to make contacts, and most of it is going to be NVIS. Any questions?
Question about Mars mods.
Okay. Mars mods can be done legally if you join. Whether or not you choose to Mars mod your radios, that is entirely up to you. It's your radio, you own it. But being a member of Mars, you have to modify your radio, because the frequencies that we use in Mars are out of the standard. Those frequencies are out of the standard ham radio frequencies. Any other questions?
What was that URL again?
USArmyMars.org. If anybody wants to know more about Mars, hit me up. I've been a member for about 2 years. I was one of the training officers for about a year, and just happy to do it. And I think it is.
Thank you.
Back to you.
Thank you very much. All right. I'm not going to plug it back in. We're going to go on with door prizes. Who's doing the door prizes, Brett?
What?
Who's doing the drawing for the door prizes? No jokes, no thing, just pull tickets and call numbers.
Yep. All right. Yeah. Okay. So, I was gonna. Yeah, you know what? I guess I won't have time to do you guys tonight. So, just the 3 that stood up here tonight. Congratulations to our 3 youngest members. Let's give them a round of applause real quickly. It's not like every day we get to have. I wasn't having them come up, but I guess we're out of time. So let's. Okay. So door prizes. We have Baofeng Radio, ARRL membership, computer, Baofeng stick, club light, and
Power bank.
Power bank. Thank you.
And
Oh yes, and Park Wrist J pole. Yep. All right, here we go. 986. Oh, all right. All right, so I'll take that. All right, you're gonna go on up and just pick out one of those door prizes.
Come on over here, and you gotta pose for a picture.
Including the J pole. All right, while he's doing that. 971.
Oh, that's me.
Hey, all right.
All right, good job.
Okay, while she's doing that.
Sabri, you want the power bank, the antenna, the flashlight, the RL membership, or the Baofeng radio?
How does the membership work? Okay. I guess I'll do that.
Membership?
Yes.
All right, here you go. Put your hand up. There you go, right there. Look at me. All right, thank you.
All right, 968. 968.
There we go.
All right, well, he's doing that. 950. 950.
Congratulations.
That could be me. What? That's you. Yep. Oh, that's him. All right, well, he's doing that.
All right, hold it.
959.
There you go, good job.
Hey!
What is this, kids night?
That's right there. All right, go ahead and over there and pick out one of your prizes. All right, we got 2 prizes left. Here we go.
Let's flashlight.
999.
All right, good job. Go ahead.
999. Nope. Anyone going once, going twice? All right. That one's a dud. 987. 987.
Draw another one. That's me. I already got something.
Okay. 966. All right. Last one. Here we go. 975.
Oh, man, I'll try.
975.
Stick my hand in and turn around and smile.
975. Going once, going twice. All right. Abby. Is it Abby? Abby, come on up. Since she didn't get a door prize. Come on up. 952. Say it in the microphone.
952.
Good job. All right, thank you. All right, thanks everyone. We're gonna QSY over to Apollo Burger.